and I just MacGyvered it with some duct tape. So we are going to attempt to drive back into that town. It's about 8 or 9 miles?
8 miles.
8 miles, mostly downhill, so hopefully we can make it. Hey, you're watching Rockin' and Rollin'. I'm Dan, is the next line.
It's like waiting for it.
Hey, you're watching Rockin' and Rollin'. I'm Dan.
I'm Jenna.
And we're the Thompsons.
And we've got a story to tell you.
So, when we were leaving Whiskeytown Lake, we were supposed to head up north to Oregon to visit some of my old college friends and some family and stuff that were hanging out up there. And when we were in Yosemite, sitting under Bridalveil Falls, we were praying and listening for direction for the next leg of our journey. And I felt like the Lord spoke clear as day to me. He said, "Skip Bend."
And we didn't know what that looked like. We didn't know what that meant. I wanted to have a lot of time in Oregon and Washington area because it's definitely on my bucket list. And I felt like if we had gone, this was like now, October? And if we had gone then, it would have been okay weather, but it would have gotten cold real quick. And we weren't sure we were wanting to just skip out on all the things we wanted to see there. So instead we thought, well, let's see what's around us. We were in Redding, and it wasn't too far of a drive to go to Sparks, Nevada, which I have family in Sparks, Nevada, and we wanted to go check it out and visit them.
One of the things that we really wanted to start embracing was the opportunities to see our family that we would never necessarily purchase a plane ticket and a hotel to go see.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we can certainly tow our home there and spend a week. So we decided to go hang out with your cousins.
We did. We actually got to go to a pumpkin patch. My grandma ended up visiting at the same time. So I got to visit my cousins and my grandma all in one shot. It was a lot of fun. Kids really enjoyed getting to hang out with family.
We also got to go to the Donner Museum, which is technically
yeah.
in California, but close enough to the Reno Sparks area that we drove up to check that out. So that
yeah,
was
super
interesting.
beautiful area up there.
And if you're wondering how to get there, I know a good shortcut. Sorry, it's an inside joke if you've been to the Donner Museum. Okay.
Oh, you're funny. I didn't get it. There weren't very many places in Sparks. There are some places in Reno, but we really wanted to be close to family, so we found
Sparks Marina.
Sparks
RV.
Marina. We parked right next to the marina. Since we had come from boondocking and all this beautiful space and all these woods and this lake, and then we get there and we're like, oh yeah, RV parks.
Yeah. If you're into like gated communities and HOAs, then Sparks Marina RV Park is right up your alley.
Yeah.
But for us, coming from a place beautiful as Whiskeytown Lake, it was kind of like,
reality check.
yeah. But it was cool. I mean, we enjoyed our time there, not because the park was amazing. The park was very clean. We did enjoy it there. Excellent customer service. We really loved hanging out with our family there. That's the reason why.
It was worth it for that. So on the last day of our stay, and like I said before, it was cold. So we had been running all of our space heaters. Dan was microwaving breakfast sandwiches and making coffee. And something blew.
Yeah, we checked out the 50 amp circuit that we were hooked up to, and everything was fine. Surge protector said that everything was fine, but our entire coach was dead.
Dead.
No power anywhere. None to the 12 volt, none to the 120 volt inverter, nothing. Like we couldn't even run on our batteries, nothing. And like I said, it was really cold. We were running a lot of space heaters, so we had to get this problem figured out fast, right?
We spent about 3 hours trying to problem solve.
Because we were actually going to leave there to go boondocking again. We were super energized about boondocking at Whiskeytown Lake, and so we were just ready to get out and start roughing it again. But our entire coach is just dead in the water. No electricity running through it whatsoever, and we can't boondock like that. No. That's a little too roughing it for us.
Oh, not to mention at the same time, the fridge was having issues lighting.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. We couldn't get the fridge to light, and that was another issue. So Dan's out there trying to fix the fridge because we needed to run it on propane when we're boondocking. It's a two-way fridge that we can either run on the electricity or
the propane.
Or propane, and we were having issues with it.
That's right. So we couldn't get the propane burner to light, so we couldn't run it on propane. It's trying to light. Come on, baby. Yeah, it should have lit by now. Yep, and there it gave up. Dang it. No flame. Wah, wah. And then I single-handedly knocked out all the power in our coach, so I couldn't run it on electricity either. So that was the other thing, is like, we're racing against the clock because all our food's going to go bad, right?
Right.
And so we're thinking, you know, I've just troubleshooted for hours trying to figure out where the problem could be.
Yep.
So
prior to this all too, we had met somebody through Dan's channel that was tuning into our travels, and he reached out to Dan and said, hey, you know, I'd love to help you guys in any way I can, but he's the manager of a large camping world in Sacramento.
Sacramento, that's right.
And which it comes in very, very handy. He has helped us so many times,
That's
and
right.
we've asked so many dumb questions, but he's always been so patient, and he's always been like, there's no question too stupid, just ask away, and it's been a godsend.
Yeah. So we really appreciate Brian. He's the general manager of the camping world over in Sacramento.
Yeah.
And so in a moment of despair, after just because I'm me and I'm prideful and I tried to figure out the problems myself, I finally called him and said, hey Brian, can you help me figure this out? And he's like, I know the guy. And so he hooks me up with Brad, who's the service manager there. And Brad, inside of about 45 seconds,
Like that. So fast.
figures out what our problem is. And there's like a little like turkey timer circuit breaker on our inverter that I somehow missed. And he asked what our inverter was, and I told him the model, and he's like, yeah, check that. All right, this here's our inverter. And that little button right there is what I missed, searching 3.5 hours for. This stupid little white button right here. When you trip a circuit, it pops out, and then you just push it right back in, and this light right here turns green, and everything starts working again.
For all this whole day, we've been trying to figure this out, and within 15 seconds, he had it figured out.
Yep.
We were like, dude, you are the best.
Seriously. And so I was like, well, since I have you on the phone, can you maybe help me figure out why my propane burner won't light? And he's like, yeah. So he walks me through how to clean it, pull the fuse, check to make sure that's good, and then put it back together, do a hard reset on it, and whoa, first try. You hear that? That's the sound of a beautiful propane flame making a refrigerator work. Which, can we just talk about how fire makes a refrigerator cold for a second? What the heck kind of craziness is that? It fired right up the first try. So inside of 15
awesome.
minutes, he fixed both of our problems over the phone. So I can't say enough good things about Brad or Brian over at the Camping World in Sacramento. If you guys live in that area, drop in and tell them I say hi and that I owe them a huge debt of gratitude for sure.
Amazing, amazing gift to us. It's been
Yeah.
such a blessing. So
Such a blessing. So while Jenna's taking care of the kids, I'm just going to say, if you guys wouldn't mind heading to the Camping World Sacramento website and leave Brian and Brad a good review, I know they'd really appreciate it. And we were back on the road.
yeah, we were a little nervous too because we were leaving so late and we were headed out to Boondock again. So no light, no way to find your spot. We were just hoping for the best as we headed out. But we never made it to Lone Pine that evening.
Yep. Now remember, Thunder Truck has been super faithful up until this point. We towed a lot of steep grades to get to Groveland
Yeah.
and to Whiskeytown Lake, and then also to Sparks, Nevada.
Yeah.
And so now we're heading back down some grades and then back up to get to Lone Pine.
Yeah, Dan had a little bit too much confidence.
So we're cruising these grades, and I've got that turbo just spooling, and it's just singing. It's giving me like 20 PSI of boost, and then all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, we hear this, and I'm going, what the heck?
And I'm like, pull over, pull over, pull over. And he's like, I have to get to a spot. And we find a spot. I mean, you can't just pull over when you're 60 feet long anywhere. We had to find a good, safe spot. We're still on this grade. We haven't reached the steepest part of it yet. And so we pull over, and we're like, Dan gets out to check, and he can't find anything. He can't figure out what has happened. So no lights have gone off. No check engine lights, no warning signs, nothing.
Yeah, I thought maybe we blew a tire. I checked every single tire. Pressure was fine. I couldn't figure it out at all. So I get back inside, I put it in drive, and we go to pull away, and there's just no back pressure. The turbo won't spool at all. And I look in the rearview mirror, and I just see a wall of black smoke. Just
Black
billowing
smoke.
black smoke. Like, worse than the smoke monster from Lost. Like,
So much so that a cop passing down the other side of the highway saw us, called another cop that was on the other side to pull up and check and make sure we were okay. So he pulls up behind us, a state trooper, I believe, pulls up behind us to come check things out, and he was awesome. He was so helpful. He knew a lot about...
actually knew a lot about turbo diesels, a lot
Yeah.
more than I did. So I'm here with Officer Buckley.
Yes,
And he has been taking really good care of us. He's been watching out, making sure nobody crashes into us, and he's going to follow us back into town to make sure we make it. In the meantime, I called my buddy. He's a diesel mechanic. He walked me through some troubleshooting steps to see what the problem could be, and we blew up this turbo boot right here. So as you can see, I just MacGyvered. There's about a 1" by 1/2 inch gaping hole in it, and I just MacGyvered it with some duct tape. So we are going to attempt to drive back into that town. It's about 8 or 9 miles?
8 miles.
8 miles, mostly downhill, so hopefully we can make it, and then hopefully we can light speed overnight turbo ship a new turbo boot. We'll see what happens. But he was super cool. He helped us troubleshoot it. I also called a buddy of mine who's a diesel mechanic, and he helped me troubleshoot it. What happened was we blew a turbo boot, which will cause the turbo to not be able to build up any pressure,
Right.
which means that as you give the engine gas without the air pressure to help vaporize the fuel, it's not going to burn all the way. So the black smoke is unburnt diesel fuel that's coming out the exhaust. It comes out as a black soot. And so because we couldn't get any pressure to build up in the turbo, it was just built, like all that fuel was just going straight through the engine and out the exhaust pipe without really giving us any power. All right, well, the duct tape held 10 miles back to Bridgeport. So looks like this is where we're gonna hold up for the night. We made it just before the sun went down. The only thing is, it's gonna be pretty cold here tonight, and we only have 1 full propane tank. I'd feel a lot better about it if we had 2, so I think we're gonna go try to find some propane somewhere in town. There's a gas station across the street. High hopes. But bottom line, the duct tape held, so huge shout out to my buddy Cameron, who talked me through troubleshooting, trying to figure out what the problem was. And we got it, at least a Band-Aid on it, and then tomorrow when the parts store opens, we'll see if they have anything that'll work, or if I need to overnight a part. But it looks like we're in Bridgeport for the night. That's just, I think, how this lifestyle is gonna be. You know, you just kind of gotta embrace the detours and the disruptions. It's hard to do because it stresses me out, but I think that's what God's teaching me through this, is that no matter what, just gotta trust that He is going to provide for us no matter where we are or what our circumstance, and always give Him the praise and glory so that His name is glorified always. So I thank and praise the Lord that we made it back to a safe spot. The officer that helped us was super nice, and he said that this is a safe parking lot for us to park in overnight. So this is where we are, and that's what I've learned. And always carry duct tape. Don't travel without duct tape.
And at this point, too, I just have to say, God has blessed us with some amazing people in our lives that have come in and just saved the day for us. This diesel friend mechanic of ours, that's a good friend of ours, has been just a godsend, and he's been right there when we need him every time we call, and it's been such a blessing. Officer Buckley was such a blessing. All of these things were just like God's way of just being there for us. Even though this could have been catastrophic, and if we had had no help, we wouldn't know what was going on, and we wouldn't have any idea how to get back.
But we made it back to the town. We boondocked in a parking lot overnight.
Here's the hilarious thing too. When we stayed in an abandoned parking lot that a lot of truckers pass through Bridgeport and they stay in. It's just an old rundown grocery store. While staying there in about 19-degree weather, we ran our propane all night, and we ran our batteries down and woke up the next morning to no
electricity. Yeah, the furnace was pretty much running all night and just killed our batteries. That was an experience. So we bundled up with blankets to make it through the rest of the night, and then, by 8 or 9 o'clock, then our solar's charging again and we're good to go. And then found an RV park the next day that we could
that was actually closed, and she opened it for us and let us stay there.
That's
which
right.
was super awesome.
Yeah, she was getting ready to close it up, and then I told her what happened, and so she stayed open a few more days so that we could, which turned out to be good for her because she ended up getting more business. A few more people came over there.
It was a really beautiful place to be stuck. I mean, we couldn't get the parts we needed right away, so we had to stay a little bit longer since it is such a small town, but the town was so helpful. We had even a auto parts store
the Napa Auto Parts store couldn't get the part that we needed, but I could get it on Amazon. Forget this, $8. $8 on Amazon with Prime shipping. But we had to have it. So the Napa Auto Parts store actually allowed us to ship an Amazon car part to their store so that we could pick it up and install it. So great. Really nice people, really good town. So,
Yeah,
and while we broke down, I started building a guitar because I was like, what else am I gonna do for 3 days? We're stranded here for a couple of days while I Amazon primed us a new turbo boot. And I was just sort of thinking, well, as long as I'm stranded for a couple of days, why not build a guitar? So let's see what parts I happen to have on hand and see if we can't throw something together.
While we were in Bridgeport, we also got to go stop by Bodie, which is a state park.
That's right.
Out in Bridgeport.
The ghost town, yeah.
We were near it, and I'd been there when I was a kid before. Remembered how super cool it was. And we were about a half hour away from it in Bridgeport. So we just thought, once Dan got the truck up and running, we thought, let's test it out and let's take the kids to Bodie. So it was kind of neat to be able to be in a space where we weren't really planning to be, but we just thought we have nowhere to be anyway, so why not check out what's here? So we hiked around a bit. She had some neat trails on her property, and then Bodie was just right around the corner. So we took the kids and did a homeschool day with them and showed them the ghost town, and that was, I recommend Bodie. Highly recommend checking that out if you're in that area.
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
Got to learn about boom towns and gold rush and
so cool.
all kinds of stuff. So it was super cool. It was good for the kids, good for us.
Yeah.
As far as like towns go that you can break down in, it's really not so bad.
Praise God that we had gone the route through California and not gone the route through Nevada, because I don't know where we would have been in the middle of Nevada.
Or think about this. What if we had gone to Oregon? And we had all those grades going up into Oregon. There's some, I know because I've been up there, some super steep grades in the middle of nowhere, no cell phone reception, nothing.
Yeah.
So I think it's pretty obvious that God had a plan for us.
Totally.
And we're learning some of these tough lessons, but he's doing it in a way that is safe.
Yeah.
And he's provided the right people to help us. And so we've learned these lessons in safe places. Next time, if it does happen in the middle of nowhere, I know to check for if I blew a turbo boot, or I know to check if I popped the little turkey timer on our inverter, and so it's been cool just watching God's hand in this and just learning to rely more on him every time we pick up and move to make sure that where we're going is where he wants us to be.
And I think recognizing the fact that he does have his hand in it, not being hopeless in the middle of it and saying, why me? But really looking at it with a positive perspective and trying to say, okay, what can we learn from this? Also, we have nowhere to go, to do, we have no schedule. We are literally doing this full time, which is a huge blessing, and something to always be thankful for. So I think learning these lessons when you have nowhere to be is the best place to be, I think.
Absolutely. To
be able to learn these in that type of an environment.
Absolutely. You're so beautiful.
Thank you. I love you.
I love you.
You're handsome.
Thanks. So if you want to see what Lone Pine was like, and
if you want to see if we actually made it to Lone Pine,
definitely click that subscribe button and stay tuned. You're watching Rockin' and Rollin', and remember,
life rocks
when your home rolls.